All right, so when we graph something, we have to make sure that we solve for the variable by itself. So something like this here, we don't want the variable to be hidden in and amongst this grouping or this expression. We want to get everything onto the other side. So when we do that, we use basic algebra or regular rules of algebra to do that. And the major rule that I always go to, I call it the golden rule of algebra or golden rule of math, is do to one side as you do to the other. It's a little bit of kind of a fun play on words there, but it applies to inequalities as well. So something like this here, if we want to get 3g minus 2 is greater than 7, and sometimes my greater than signs look like 7, so I got to kind of watch out for that. We'll put a little line through there. So if we want to graph this out, we have to get g all by itself. Now, the first thing that we do is we have to kind of go the opposite order operations, okay? So we don't start off with what's multiplying to g, we start off with what's subtracting. And so here we got something subtracting 2, so we have to add 2 to both sides to get rid of that. Okay, so when we subtract by 2 and then add 2, it's going to go to both sides. And so we're just going to get 3g all by itself there, and the symbol stays the same. 7 plus 2 is 9. So this will give us that 3g is greater than 9. Now, the next thing we do is get rid of the 3 here. And now the reason we don't do this to start is that if we want to divide by 3, we have to divide each piece by 3. Well, here we have 3 pieces, here we only have 2. So if we can get kind of combine some of our like units first and then divide, that's going to make it a lot simpler to collect everything later on. So we're going to divide both sides by 3. And 3 divided by 3, this cancels out. 3 divided by 3 is 1. It's not 0, because 0 times g would not work. It's 1, so this becomes 1g, and is greater than 9 divided by 3 is 3. So g is greater than 3, so we put our 3 right here. 2, 4, 5, 6. That is going to be our circle there, and then we go bigger. Go bigger, go home, right? Is that what? Oh, we are all at home. Okay. So there we go. We have our graph. G is greater than 3 is equivalent to this right here. Just as a, so because we have simplified that off. Now, the only difference that we have to watch out for, the only thing that we really have to watch out for with this is if all of a sudden we have a negative, or if we have to divide a negative. Okay, so what's going to happen here is sometimes our variable is going to be negative. So we might get something like negative x is greater than 2 or something like that. We don't ever want our variable to be a negative. We always want it to be a positive. We want to get it all by itself. Now, to do that, we need to divide by a negative 1. Okay, so if we divide by a negative 1, remember there's kind of, you have to remember there's like a negative 1 in front there. It's negative 1 times x. We don't write it in there because we don't have to, but in this case here, we have to remember that that's what's in front there. So we can divide by negative 1, which gets rid of it, but we have to divide both sides by negative 1. Now, I'm going to use this number example as it's going to kind of give us a bit of an idea of what's going to happen there. If we want to get rid of the negative here, we need to divide both sides by negative 1. Now, 3 divided by negative 1 is negative 3. So positive divided by negative just changes the sign. And it does the same thing to the other side. So this becomes a 2. Now, if we kept the symbol the exact same, okay, greater than, is negative 3 actually greater than 2? No, right? Positive 3 is greater than negative 2, but negative 3 is actually less than 2. So what we have to do is when we multiply or divide by a negative number, it flips the sign around. So a less than becomes a greater than, and a greater than or equal to becomes a less than or equal to. So we have to kind of watch that. It flips the sign around, okay? And it's because of what just happened here that we can see why. So if we have something like this, negative x is greater than 2, and we divide both sides by negative 1 to get rid of that negative, now we get that x is less than negative 2. Okay? So it's less than negative 2. So we have to watch out for that. We have to flip the sign around. Okay, and I'm just going to, so the sign is flipped. Whoop, flipped when we multiply, wow, am I having trouble spelling here? Or divide by a negative. Okay, so that's something to watch out for. That's something to be careful for when we're trying to solve, and we'll go through a little bit of how we solve those in the examples.